So I mentioned this last episode, but I did not like the table that was here before, so I've come up with a new table design that I like considerably better. I do think it loses a lot of interest with it being so straight, I guess is the word, as this entire area is kind of meant to be built on an angle, and then both of these are like square on the Minecraft grid, whereas before the table was diagonal, and so it was a little bit more interesting. But I like the way this looks a bit better. Now I had a lantern here and I'm very undecisive as to whether I want to keep the lantern here because I really like the way that there's like the sun coming down and like all the lighting on this armor and like shine and then all of that. And it becomes just a lot more bright and flat. Like obviously the shading is still there, but it loses a lot of the darkness and I guess the shadows when the lantern is there. However, I really do like the way this lantern looks at night. And I'm going to try to let it be night so I can show you guys this, but this forest is not lit at all. And so mobs do spawn and they do stick around, and sometimes the wolves get angry at them. Sometimes the foxes get scared. I don't actually know if that one's true. But we'll see. It's turning night anyways. While it's turning night, I do want to tell you guys something, that we have unfortunately lost a soul. And we didn't lose the fox. It's fine. He's still sleepy here. But he did kill. So I guess I was wrong. Foxes do at least attack rabbits when they are trusting. And the rabbit I had here, this guy tried to attack, and I was very confused as to why it was running at it, which led me to take off the lead, and then I killed it. But it's fine. Well, we can get a new rabbit. But anyways, it is turning night here. We get to see all the firefly bushes activate. And I just really like this like pop of light in a very dark forest. Like just look at that through the rocks, through the forest. I think it's very pretty. Perhaps if I move this to like here? Yeah, and then that kind of allows this to be a little bit more in the darkness and we still get the light. Okay, sweet, nice. Now I need to sleep and hope that no mobs spawned in there. Now there's something pretty important that I kind of forgot to mention last episode, but I did end up having to go to a mushroom islands to get mycelium because I needed them for these tree stumps. I really like the way that there's like this very desaturated purple, I guess, and then the brown and everything. It just kind of gives the vibe of a deteriorating tree. Is that how you say that word? Deteriorating? That's such a weird word. Deteriorating. Anyways, I had to go to Mushroom Islands, and while I was there, I did go ahead and pick up a mushroom. You might have actually seen it in the last episode. I fully intended to mention it, but I forgot. But yeah, that guy's chilling. And so we're gonna leave him there. But what are we gonna do in today's episode? Well, last episode we started working on this view, and right now it's pretty empty out there. So we're gonna start filling it up. The first thing I want to do is have a bridge here, just so that the path actually goes somewhere and we can cross the river. And in the future, I would like to have a building out there. But before we do any of that, there's one thing I want to do first, and that is to complete the interior of this building and just get it out of the way. As I mentioned before, that this is our mine entrance, and I don't want to just leave it empty and never complete it. So I've gathered all the materials and we are going to get started on it right now. Right, so chips. Crisps if you're in the UK, but I'm personally not a fan. I really don't like when all the dust and the grease gets on my hands. However, recently I've seen ads, notably Cheetos, that will advertise the messiness as if it's a positive. And I know it's satire, not to be taken literally, but it's also true that it is annoying to do anything whilst eating them. And so I'm here to propose that we cancel chips and we move forwards to the best snack. Bird seeds. They have all the crunchy punchy flavors of chips, but completely hands-free. Take after our winged companions and use your beaks. Who knows, maybe you'll start sprouting your own wings. Just a bit of skill and you'll be soaring through the sky. Right, so here's a fun fact about me. I'm a huge fan of warm and dark atmospheres, but I'm pretty sure YouTube doesn't really like when things are dark, and so I think the video quality will probably go down because the inside of this is very dark. But yeah, we have a very tiny inside. There's not much space in here, so we have just a couple of bits of storage and a little support beam, but we get a staircase that goes down into a mine shaft. I'm a huge fan of this. We've got a little bit more storage. We got some support beams, got some mine carts, some rails, a bunch of mushrooms and roots and all sorts of like plant life. I guess mushrooms aren't plants, but you know. But yeah, it doesn't go too deep. It's just a small little hallway. And then you can turn into this way, which actually takes us into the ravine. So yeah, we have this little, I guess platform is the word. And then from here, we can go into the mines. I'm not gonna decorate the entire ravine. Hello, Piggy. Are you enjoying your ravine life? Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about anything in the ravine as of now, at least. But yeah, this is meant to look like an old rickety mine shaft, but it isn't out of use per se. It's still being used by the person that's living in that house, but it's not being used very often. Yeah, my tools kind of say a lot about that. Anyways, we're just gonna, speaking of not using this often, just gonna leave this, and oh, it's nighttime. Yikes. Jokes aside, I'm a massive fan of the mine shaft, but we are fully done with this building, and it's time to move on out of the forest, kind of. Not really, exactly. We're going to be doing these shores over here, and we're going to be adding a bridge. I have a good idea in my mind of how I want this to look, and I'm super excited to see how it turns out. Now, I'm going to be honest and say I kind of want to bring the river down a little bit to where the shore, I guess, is a bit above the river rather than at the same level. But that would be quite an insane amount of work. So what we're gonna do is just we're gonna pull this bit up a little bit, and that should put our bridge above the water rather than in it. I saw a strength skeleton spider jockey here. Did it despawn? There's a creeper over there. Oh, I found it. Oh, there it is. It's on the mine. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it was going well for a bit. That bit was very short. However, I think that spider is going to be kind now that it's morning and it has already ended my life. Are you friend? No. Oh, wait. Ah. Yeah. No! I was wronged. I was wrong and I was wronged. Haha. No, my minecart got turned. This is so difficult to get into place. I'm gonna leave it like that for now and come back to it. So I want to try something here. That is simply doing some very minimal lighting. So we're gonna take a look at that. I mean, it definitely could work. My only fear is that the oak trap doors don't really work as well. Well, they don't work as well as the jungles do. And so I'm a bit concerned about that, but I do want to fiddle with the lighting up in the branches a little bit. Comparing it to the rest of the tree, they're a bit lacking. Now I want to turn your guys' attention to the house because I've grown to hate this. Now, I don't think it looks the worst, but I think the way that this house came to be kind of irks me. So when I made this house, I used a reference image. Now, I've had the idea in the back of my head that the reference that I use might have been made using generative AI, and I really don't like generative AI. I firmly believe it is art theft, and that's as far as I'm going to go on this topic in this video. Now, obviously, I didn't copy the design one-to-one, as that's just not very fun, but it is a bit too similar for my comfort, and that has caused me to kind of grow a disdain for this building. So what am I going to do about this? Well, it's actually quite simple what I'm going to do. It's been done. Hello. Sorry for stealing your roof, Sonny. Yeah, so I've destroyed most of the house. Do you need something? As I was saying, we've destroyed most of the house, but I'm leaving this bottom part just because of all the storage stuff down here. But this all will probably go as well. But I'm going to leave it here until I've designed something new. But not doing that today. And in all honesty, I probably should have destroyed the house in the episode that I was going to rebuild it. but I don't care because it had to happen. Now, this does mean that we do have the opportunity to make this house smaller. I mentioned when I was building this forest, or before I was doing that I want to make the forest significantly larger than the house itself. However, it ended up being about the same size as the forest. So I now have the opportunity to make my home a lot smaller and a lot more cottage-like, which is gonna make me a happy little guy. As good as I feel with destroying that house, this is very empty now. So I'm probably going to have to build out more forest. Anyways, we are going to turn our attention to the bridge soon. But I do just want to talk one more thing about this forest and how I want it to be by the end of it. So obviously this is where the house is still going to go, but this forest is pretty small, all things considered. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last episode, but I'm going to draw a circle here, and that circle is going to be where the forest ends. So yeah, it's going to be pretty big. There's going to be a lot of space and stuff that I want to throw in the forest. And it's going to be, I'm so excited for how it could turn out and how immersive it could be. But as I mentioned last episode, it's not going to be for a while. I'm going to take a break and step away from the forest for a bit. And to symbolize that, we're going to build the bridge out. When I make art, I tend to do it alone, and I'm willing to bet some of you might share this tendency. When we make art, we generally have a vision that we want to see brought to life, and sometimes collaborating with others can cause your piece to stray from that vision, which can sometimes be great, but it also can be difficult to navigate. However, I think collaborating is incredibly important. Art by nature is social. It allows us to share our view of the world with others, and when we collaborate, we get to experience the minds of others live. This is a very small example of this idea, but when I was designing this bridge, I was struggling. I'd spent multiple hours trying to make a small wooden bridge. At some point I was working on it and my friend Alien was hanging out with me. Eventually, as I explained my issue, she had come up with a brilliant idea that I don't think I could have come up with on my own. And her help was the only reason this bridge could come to life in a way that made me happy. Collaboration allows us to learn from others rather than just ourselves. And, not to mention, it can be incredibly fun to work with your friends on a project. And here it is. We have our bridge. Now, the technique that Alien had showed me is using the stairs to kind of imitate planks, like smaller planks. I think this also works significantly better in the water because that way the bottom part is kind of less visible and it looks like individual planks, but I think it looks pretty good above water as well as it just makes more sense for the bridge to, you know, not be in the water or just floating on top of it. Massive shout outs to Alien Taurus for 1, helping me with my bridge, and 2, letting me use them as an example in this video. Go check them out. They stream on Twitch and they're genuinely one of the funniest people I know. Their link will be in the description. Realistically, I would have liked to have the river be significantly lower than the bridge. However, that would have been a lot of terraforming. And I really just wanted to do something small today after building this whole thing in the last episode. But yeah, we have a birch tree here. I'm definitely going to tinker with this more as I'm not too big of a fan. Like, I feel like from this angle it looks pretty nice, but the direction we're going to be seeing it most, it just kind of looks flat and wonky. I've also added all these algae clumps along the riverbeds, which I'm pretty happy with, and all of the mud from the river touching the shore. I also decided to do the underside of the river. It doesn't go all the way out, as well as the algae. None of the river stuff goes all the way out. It's just a very, very small portion of the river. But I think I want to move it all the way out to like where the river kind of closes there, and then I have some ideas to kind of avoid doing the entire river because this river goes a long way, and same way in this direction, kind of to where it turns over there, because all that really matters is what we see and not what's actually there. But yeah, the bridge definitely adds to the view a lot. Again, that tree is going to need fixing as it just looks bad in my opinion. Now, speaking of this view and the bridge, I know I said the bridge was kind of like a symbolic way of leaving the forest. Why does the shadow not cast on the mud bricks? Oh, it's a slab. Okay, anyways. Right, I know I said the bridge is supposed to symbolize leaving this area and working on something else for a while. But I have plans for next episode, and those plans involve building a house. But after we build the house here, then we can leave the forest. What do you think, Sunday? Speaking of Sunday, we are actually going to go test our bridge and actually make sure it works for a horse. Mainly we're going to see how it kind of feels, because I know I put a lot of fence gates in here, so it might be a little bit bumpy. So let's see. Okay, it's not bad. Either way, it practically it functions, and then visually it's fine. I imagine it looks like the horse is floating a bit when we're on the bridge, but that doesn't matter too much. You know, this episode has almost taken me as long as last episode, but there's just so many like fun little things that I keep wanting to do. And then it adds up, and then the episodes take a lot longer to come out. Like, I was originally thinking this one would come out 1 to 2 weeks after the last one, and this episode is just me building a bridge. But here we are almost a month later. Anyways, it's definitely going to be all I'm going to do for this episode. But before I end today's episode, I need you to see this. This is art by Valentina on my Discord, and it is so cool. It's my character if I was in Grian's life series. And if you don't know what the life series is, go check it out. It's super cool. But oh my gosh, this is insane art, and I have no words. So massive shout out and massive thank you. I really do appreciate that. But with that being said, thank you to everyone who watched this video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.